Hey YouTube, I'm gonna bring you a Napoleon Total War online commentary battle. This is going to be on the Waterloo map. I am playing with my teammate White Eagle, a Mishnah, and then the defenders are Sun Tzu and Despair. So I'm hoping that I'm not going to be despairing that Sun Tzu is so good at tactics. Ooh, that sucked. Alright, let's start by taking a look at the enemy armies on the field. Now, if you look at the minimap, my ally and I looks like a giant blob of troops. That's because we are repositioning. He wanted to fight on the other side of the map, and so I agreed to that, as that it didn't appear our opponents were rushing us. So I will be facing off against the Russian opponent. And here, let's take a look at what he's got. He's got 4 units of line here. So that's 4 units musketeers. Up on the hill, he has some Uhlans, Lifeguard horse, and dragoons. He's got some more line up here. Grenadiers, musketeers, lifeguard, musketeers. And then he has 4 units of Russian Jaegers. The French opponent looks like, has 2 units of lancers. One is the Polish Guard, and then the cuirassier. His artillery unit is a 6-inch howitzer. The more nefarious artillery in the battlefield is this 20-pound unicorn that I knew my opponent would be bringing the minute he picked Russia. Now, I did limit artillery to 1 piece, though, so this would not turn out into a gigantic artillery standoff, as those tend to be a little bit lame in my opinion. So my the French opponent here, he has some voltigeurs as his skirmishers. Let's see what his troops are. He's got some Swiss foot and 2 fusiliers of the line there. A couple more fusiliers of the line. Another Swiss foot. And he's got some more voltigeurs for his skirmishers. Let's see what he's got back here. Dutch Guard lancers. So French opponent has some very good cavalry. His skirmishers are going to be lacking though. And my ally has moved up here and placed stakes across the length of the battlefield, and that's actually a pretty good idea, because one, he can use it as a place to retreat against incoming skirmish fire, and it keeps the French cavalry from being able to make quick runs on his skirmishers. So now he can use the range of his Jaegers to harass the French troops, and I believe either the Frenchman had some micro problems, or just got a little too antsy here, because he sent this unit of line infantry forward and they got smoked. Anyway, let's take a look at our armies. My ally has some Landwehr militia here, and that's to use them as a meat shield. Pretty interesting tactic. I used to use that with the Pueblo on Empire Total War. And then he has 5 units of Jaegers, so he's got a lot of skirmishing force and a lot of skirmishing power. His line is, it looks like, about 6 or 7 musketeers. His general there, and he's got a 7-pound howitzer. Let's take a look at my army. I have 9 units of line infantry. I'll make this nice and simple, and 5 units of Nassau Jaegers. Here they are. So we outrange our opponents in skirmishing, and we outpower our opponents in skirmishing. However, our opponents outpower us in artillery because of the 20-pound unicorn on the opposite side of the field. I finally got my howitzer up here. My opponent has 2 units in this building, and I was going to target that building so that hopefully I could catch it on fire or something and get lucky. But I don't really think that howitzers are overly effective against buildings. I don't know, I don't usually my artillery against buildings very often. There, I'm launching out some fire. And anyway, of course, my artillery is at great risk of being destroyed by that 20-pound unicorn, which has a much greater range, it's on a hill, and has greater firepower. And was that prophecy or what? So now my artillery unit is pretty much useless, as I can only man 1 gun, or 2 guns at a time if I'm lucky. This gun, yeah, I'm not sure if I can, yeah, it looks like 2 guns. Anyway, let's take a look at what's going on. I'm trying to skirmish with my opponent, so I keep running my skirmishers forward. Just taking some crack shots here, and then moving out of their range, because my opponent's skirmishers are these Russian Jaegers, and although there's more of them per unit, They of course have a shorter range. Here's the building where my opponent has a unit of grenadiers and also a unit of Russian Jaegers. And I think the building like gives you extra range or something, because man, they were firing at me from outside of my 125 range, and I know that they don't have that range. It kind of makes sense though if you had an elevated position, if it gave you better range. So my teammate was asking me what we should do, because as you can see, I'm gonna just get destroyed by the unicorn ever so slowly if I don't continue to harass my opponent. And we have an obvious skirmishing strength here. I'm trying to give you this nice far off view. So we have to use that skirmishing strength, and that's what I was communicating with my teammate at this time, that we should make harassing moves on the enemy. Of course, at this particular point in time, I don't think we'd quite started that yet. So I will stop recording and come back when we start some of that harassing skirmish fire. Alright, so I am moving up my skirmishers at this time. Every time I move up, my opponent tries to move up and take advantage of the fact that his men are up here on a small ridge. And but because of the height of this ridge, it's only going to offer them minimal protection. And so I can still leave my skirmishers out here to fire at them. And I'm going to make a few kills on him. And then I'm going to be able to withdraw out of range before there's much of anything he can do about it. You can see here more of my units fired in. So I killed about 7 of his Jaegers there, so that was not a good move for my opponent, as they're already outpowered in skirmishers. Now in my, I think in my last Napoleon battle, I was showing you how my rifles, when I played as Sweden, my rifles got owned, and I was trying to tell everybody that, you know, the light infantry was better because there's more of them and they have more devastating fire. That's not necessarily true, because it depends on how you use your rifles. And so part of the reason I did this battle was I wanted to show you how to properly use rifles against light infantry. And the difference here is the light infantry in this game is the infantry that comes armed with the longer smoothbore muskets, like these Russian Jaegers, and a rifle, of course, has rifling down the barrel and is more accurate and has longer range. So that's the trade-off. You either get more men, less accurate, less range, or you get fewer men, more accurate, more range. Of course, if you're going to take advantage of that long range, that means you have to stay outside of the range of your opponents, and that's what I'm doing. So I move up and make short, harassing moves, and then pull my men back immediately when the enemy attempts to move his men up to counter. You can see this unit here is down to 74 men because I've been skirmishing them from the distance. Now I'm going to stop recording and come back again here in a minute when some more decisive action starts. Our opponents are getting sick of us skirmishing the crap out of them, and here the Russian sends out some Uhlans, and he catches just a couple of my Nassau Jaegers here, but it was more so a trap, and we lured his Uhlans right into a hail of musket fire, and they're going to get absolutely blown to smithereens before they can cause any damage. So there they go, routing off the field and shattered. So now the Russian has not only lost some skirmish units in my long-range skirmishing, but he's now lost a unit of cavalry also because of that hasty attack. But this is the whole point of using rifles to your advantage, is you're going to draw your opponent into a hasty attack that leaves them at a disadvantage. So see, here's my Prussian teammate. He's going to lay down some skirmishing fire as well on the French. You can see the voltigeurs across here. They're not taking too many casualties though, because they're hiding behind a stake line, and for some reason that deflects some of your incoming fire. And on this front, he's skirmishing with the French voltigeurs here as well, and easily destroying them. And there's also some units in this building. Looks like he has about 200 men in that building. It is a Dutch Grenadiers and a Swiss Foot. So he's probably just using his skirmishers to pick at the troops in that building. You can see my teammate's artillery has not been destroyed, and he is actually devastating this French howitzer unit. So over time, or like I said, we're going to wear down the will of our opponents, and eventually they're going to have to come and attack us. And the reason why we're making them come attack us is twofold. First, they have the hill advantage here, so if we come attack them, that's not going to be a real good idea. Plus, they have men in these buildings, which is going to be a nice garrisoning power for them. and plus there's this ridge right here, and I would have to bottleneck my troops. So I definitely don't want to attack the Russian unless I'm forced to. So we're out here skirmishing, so it's not necessarily like we're sitting around camping, because I'm actually proactively harassing my opponent, so definitely not camping. And I'm not like sitting back here with some gigantic hill advantage either. Anyway, Waterloo is a cool map because it has a little bit of features to it, but it's still relatively flat, and I think offers some semi-balanced play. Of course, if people camp on the huge hill in the back, then it doesn't become too great. Here I'm doing some more harassing skirmish fire. Let me show you this from above so you can see how it works. I move my longer range rifles up, you fire at your opponent, and then you run away. And here, this particular time, I took quite a few casualties because, like I said, the men in this building got some extreme range, but I didn't take very many casualties, and my opponent took more casualties than I did. So that's how you skirmish properly with rifles. You move up, you shoot, you pull back, and you force your opponent to come forward into a bad position. Just like this. I just killed quite a few more of these Russian Jaegers up on the ridge, and so I'm just gonna do this repeatedly until I'm able to force my opponent to make a hasty attack on me. And you can definitely see this is wearing our opponents down. And if you look over here on the other flank, the French player is losing a lot of troops in the skirmish fight with the Prussian opponent. These Voltigeurs are no match for the Prussian rifles. In fact, Voltigeurs completely confuse me because, yes, they're more accurate, but you only get 60 of them, and they don't even have 125 range. So to me, this is honestly one of the most pointless units in the game. I never bring them. If someone has a good use for them, though, let me know, other than the fact that they can deploy stakes and chasseurs can't. Alright, so that's pretty much the opening phase of this battle. We'll come back with the finishing phase here momentarily.